Herzlich willkommen bei Digitale Optimisten. Ich bin Alex und ich spreche in diesem Podcast mit den Gründern der nächsten Generation, die mit ihren Ideen die Zukunft verändern wollen, damit aber noch ganz am Anfang stehen. Heute mit Teil 2 meines Gesprächs mit Cathy Hannon. Cathy arbeitet mit ihrem Startup Dandelion an einem ganz großen Markt, den Markt für Energie und Heizen. Und das macht sie nicht irgendwie, sondern mit einem hochinnovativen Konzept, das Erdwärme als Energieträger viel, viel günstiger macht. Hier ein Ausschnitt aus der ersten Folge, in dem Cathy erklärt, wie gigantisch dieser Markt ist und was das für ihr Startup bedeutet.
And so, yeah, it's like we did an analysis showing if Dandelion grows to become a company pulling in $500 million of revenue in the next 5 years. To do that, we'll only have to convert 0.7% of the Northeast heating oil market. That's all it would take to reach that level of growth.
Jetzt also viel Spaß mit der zweiten Folge und den Rapid Fire Questions, in der wir unter anderem über die Rolle von Greta Thunberg für ihr Business sprechen und wie sich Cathy eigentlich ihr Traumhaus vorstellt. Viel Spaß damit und bis nächste Woche Montag mit einem neuen Gründern und frischen Ideen. We already touched on a lot of things. We really dug into the business model, the way that you started up. The last thing on my list are the rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
First question is, how much has Fridays for Future and Greta Thunberg increased your valuation?
Oh, I have no idea. Probably not very much. I don't know. I mean,
You don't think so?
I don't
Doesn't
know.
it help? I mean, because you lead the sustainability angle, and don't you think that people get more, as you mentioned, 20% of emissions, CO2 emissions, are from the home? I thought, it might actually be a great selling point.
Well, I think that investors are looking for more signals, more immediate signals that that renewable energy or like green energy will be valued, right? And I know this is rapid fire and I'm not rapid firing yet, but if our president or future president, say, were to enact policies designed to limit emissions, that would increase our valuation. Or when states choose to do so, that increases our valuation. But I think some of the more global conversation is too removed and sort of too speculative today for for our investors to really take it into account yet. But I do hope it's a signal of good things to come.
Maybe someday. Yeah, I guess so. What does your dream house look like?
I would love a house with many windows that was a close commute to work in a sunny location.
Wonderful. I would love that too. If you could only eat one dish for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I have no idea.
So you're not a foodie, I guess.
No, I'm not. And I also really like diversity of foods. Like my husband is somebody who can eat the same thing for every dinner or every lunch and he would be happy. So he would be good at answering this question.
Okay. If you had unlimited resources, what would you do with your life?
If I had unlimited resources, I think I would do a similar type of work. I would try to look for opportunities to leverage those resources to help mitigate climate change. But I would be able to be way more risk-seeking than I am today because I would have pretty much nothing to lose, right? So I would just keep going with the seawater fuel project and I would, start a dozen other things as well. That's what I would do.
Nice. Great answer. Do you have book recommendation for our listeners?
Well, from a business book perspective, I really loved The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. And from a personal book perspective, I've been reading The Stand by Stephen King, and it's about a global pandemic.
Ooh.
And it's been really amazing to read it right now as COVID-19 has been exponentially spreading, because what I read in this like fictional horror book from the 90s and what I see when I turn on the news or open the New York Times is so similar. And it's just like such a unique moment in time to get to read a book like that.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think when you talked about the USPs that your product has, one thing that stood out to me was autonomy, right? You're totally autonomous from gas, from oil. So I don't know, certainly an interesting kind of value proposition for anyone who is kind of, wanting to, be very autonomous in these kinds of situations. That was just a thought I had.
That's very true.
How do you define success?
Um,
big questions, I know.
I know.
Hard for rapid fire.
Success is achieving your goals.
Okay, yeah, that's it. You're right. So the last one is, what is the best advice you've ever received in your life?
I think some of the best advice I've ever received was from Carol Dweck, who's, I don't know her personally, but she's a professor who really espouses growth mindset, which is the idea that we are not fixed, static beings, but we're just constantly in a state of growth and change. And so having this mindset allows you to just not take it personally or not feel personally threatened if you're not good at things, or if you make mistakes, right? It's just this idea that you're not bad if you are bad at something. And if you want to, you could always get better at that thing. And I think that perspective is so important, especially for leading a life where you take on a lot of things you don't know how to do, which is what I've been doing, because necessarily you are going to be really bad at many of those things and make a lot of mistakes. And it has a way of really exposing all of your weaknesses in the greatest possible relief. So you have to be quite comfortable with that in order to tolerate the uncertainty and sort of the difficulty of entrepreneurship. And so Carol Dweck has really helped me with that.
That's a wonderful advice. So Kathy, thank you so much for coming on. This has been an insightful conversation for me. I learned a ton, I can tell you that. And the only thing I can say to you to end this interview is, I wish you all the best for Dandelion and yourself, and all the success that I can imagine to you and your company.
Thank you so much.